This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. Ahoy! Captain David Gallimore welcomes you aboard the Regenerate Show, live Mondays, 10 a.m. Pacific on K4HD Radio at k4hd.com. We dive into the real messy work of transforming our lives, leadership, and organizations. Bring your hot mess and confusion. Leave with clarity, courage, and confidence. Together, let's strengthen our resilience, accelerating the health of ourselves, people, planet, and profits. Now, here's your host, Captain Dave, your personal regenerator. All aboard!
Welcome to episode 6 of Regenerate. I am so excited that you're here. Our theme this week is regenerating collaborative organizations. So why do so many smart teams struggle to collaborate? And what can leaders do to change it? In this episode, I'm going to invite my dear friend, Dr. Bonita Thompson, Dr. B, as she's fondly called, or Dr. Bonita, to explore how organizations can really move beyond the functional silos that I certainly grew up with at IBM and Boeing and Capgemini, and really help them move beyond competition and miscommunication toward a healthier, high trust collaboration. So she's done quite a bit of academic work. She has an MBA, she has a doctorate in collaboration. She's done a lot of work at University of Pennsylvania on the science of collaborative leadership and really how people need to recognize each other's contributions. That's kind of table stakes. And then to be able to have new strategies that they can use to surface constructively conflicts, disagreements, strategy, misalignment, and be able to then deliver results faster. And I would say enjoy the journey. Otherwise, what's the point? So if you want your organization to collaborate better, lead more effectively, and create impact together, this is the conversation for you. If you've been with us before, you know that our promise to you is to have some fun, because when we're laughing, we're learning. And both Dr. Bonita and I have had quite the morning, so we're going to have some fun laughing at just the cosmic chuckle of too many things going on, kind of that perfect storm. We're going to leave you inspired, and we are absolutely committed to outcomes, each of us in our respective coaching. So we want to leave you empowered to not just survive, but to flourish. And I hope that you will consider grabbing some old school paper or a digital note-taking and pen and begin to apply one thing that resonates with you today. Because as many have come before you have said to me, transformations have started on the Regenerate Show. So it's now a privilege to introduce you to Dr. Bonita. I met her first in 2018 as one of a handful of folks that Dr. Marshall Goldsmith had tapped to be able to share everything that he knew about stakeholder-centered coaching, executive coaching, leadership development, and being a better person incrementally, daily. How do you become a better person? Bonita, she's a people-first leader. I just so appreciate this about her. She's a sought-after executive coach. She has clients all over the globe. She is a keynote speaker on a number of subjects, but especially around collaboration. And she's a New York Times best-selling author of the book Admired, 21 Ways to Double Your Value. So what I'd like to do is now bring on my dear friend, Dr. Bonita Thompson.
Ahoy, David. It's nice to see you.
Ahoy! Well, happy Monday. You've had contractors scaling into your walls. I've had contractors making all sorts of noise as well. So we're kind of in contractor heck, aren't we, you and I?
Yes, well, at least we're building and creating things, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I do enjoy the process, although it is dusty.
Yes, indeed.
To help us get the fun started, what's that one thing that you just absolutely love to do or be that gives you the most joy in your life?
Well, I would say it's tough to pick one, but I would say it would be being with the people that I love the most, and creating great experiences for them. So, finding ways to figure out what they really lights them up and what they want to accomplish in their life, and then creating experiences that can help them create that. So, for example, my daughter loved fashion design. And so we decided that we would have her meet a fashion designer in New York City, talk to her directly about how that was going to happen. We set up a meeting with a chemist to learn how synthetic fabrics were made. We did the history of fashion and made different outfits from different time periods. So we took all the topics of school, but fit them into whatever she was passionate about, and that was a highlight in my life.
That story just absolutely inspires me. My own daughter, Catherine, and I understand a little bit your daughter, Vanessa. Traditional schools, traditional learning was not their favorite environment.
Yeah.
And so what you did brilliantly, and I wish I had known you back then, because I went the more traditional route of having Catherine go into kind of additional educational support and tutoring and things, and that stigmatized her in some ways. And
Hmm.
but in hearing your story and knowing you as I do, that did not happen with Vanessa.
No, she really blossomed under the let's fire up what you're passionate about plan. And that also fired up the rest of us, so in the family. So that was really a spectacular time in our lives. Yeah, and it also called on the topic that I'm most interested in, which is how do you build collaborative environments? Because there's no way that one person can educate any one person. So it really requires a village and a team. And so calling on people and saying, I know you're interested in raising bees. Could you show Vanessa how you raise bees? I know you're great at fixing locks. Would you show her how to fix a lock? And calling on the community that we had was also another great aspect.
That's it does take a village. Hillary Clinton, I think, was one that was the title of her book, I believe.
Yes.
So, ah, that is so heartwarming. And I know we're going to be talking a little bit about organizations and collaboration, but our families are probably
Yeah.
the best opportunity to test drive some of these uh, simple but not easy, as Marshall would say, ideas and modalities that we're going to be sharing in the coming minutes, and also probably the riskiest in many ways because your family you can't fire your family. You got to make it, and so there's a lot at stake. There's a lot of emotion,
There
and
is.
I think it's a great proving ground. If you can try these things with your family, they're probably going to work just great in the corporate world.
Exactly. And also, John Gottman, who was a family marriage counseling expert, did a lot of research in that field. And he came up with a premise that really reverberates through most social sciences, which is he noticed that the couples that stayed together the longest, the ones that had the most successful marriages and were happiest in their marriage, would compliment one another 5 times for every one time that they criticized someone. And so, using these tools of collaboration, we want to bring in as many positive reinforcements. But that goes counter to the way our brain works.
Yeah.
Our brain works that, we have to immediately find the things that are wrong. We have to point them out. We have to make sure everybody knows what's going on that's not right. But our social systems require that we point out things that are going right. And so it almost takes a concerted effort to find the things that are doing right and to reward people for those things. So you're right. And one thing we can do in our families is make sure they know all the things that are going right. And even if they did something that didn't come out the way they wanted, at least acknowledging the positive intent that that other person had is a big part of building collaboration within our families.
Well, that that is just a great testimony to the power of communication and intention. We'll talk some more about validation of people's emotions as a bridge to meet them where they are and to perhaps provide more constructive feed forward. Another Marshallism, because you
Yes.
can't change the past, but you can change your behavior from this moment forward. So, one other quick question, just to help our listeners get to know you a little bit deeper. What I love about what you've already done is you're clearly being as vulnerable and authentic as you can be, given all the contracting going on in here. Uh, so before being a mom, before being an educator, a best-selling author, a world-class executive coach, a philanthropist, you and Mark have, I believe, helped fund some pretty successful Broadway shows, which my wife and I can't wait to sell our house so that we can go traveling and going to shows again. And a global thought leader on collaboration. So before all of that, Dr. Bonita, what life experience or two forged who you have become so far?
That's
What's
a
your
great question. That's a great question. Thank you for that. I would say that in my childhood, I grew up in Silicon Valley during the 60s. My father was a fuel specialist for the moon launch. And so we were surrounded by people in Silicon Valley who were there just to launch up and put a man on the moon. And that was an incredibly collaborative environment. There were people from over 80 countries working on that project. There were so many different languages being spoken. The person across the street was a specialist in origami and was responsible for folding up the lunar module onto the capsule. The person next door was a specialist in birds, and his expertise was to keep the birds out of the engine on launch because that can derail a lot of launches. And so I realized that there isn't one direct route to achieving anything. You need people who have this varied experiences and different languages and different perspectives, and you need to pull them all together and get them running in the same direction. And that is perhaps one of the hardest things that a leader has to do. So growing up in Silicon Valley and in that environment was incredibly powerful for me because I got to experience firsthand. For example, my father, I don't remember much about what was on television at that time because we had a tube television. And so the tubes kept burning out. So I don't remember the shows, but I do remember my father and his friends, who were all rocket scientists, literally, with their heads in the back of the machine, trying to get the thing to work. And I got the role of reading the schematic because I had the smallest finger and I could trace it along the schematic. And it was very interesting because here were these 3 rocket scientists and me, an 8-year-old girl who had a tiny finger. And if I said, I think it's tube number 275, they would look at one another and they'd say, test tube 275. And it wasn't, there was no hierarchy in that repair of the television. It was just to get the television fixed. And I learned a lot about collaboration and the importance of listening to one another and the importance of trusting one another.
was going to say, how
And
many rocket scientists, men in the 60s, especially, trusting an 8-year-old girl? I mean, obviously you were smart and you took it seriously, and people trusted you. That was awesome.
well, they trusted that my finger could trace the little wires all the way around.
Who knew that that was going to be a key skill in the 60s, at tracing a circuit?
Right. So just being in that environment, learning how collaboration works, learning how we sabotage collaboration was very formative in what I became interested in and wanted to work on.
Thank you for that backstory. I didn't know half of what you just shared, and I've known you for quite a long time. So what a treat for me personally, and for our listeners as well. So, Bonita, we're going to now shift gears a little bit. We have a break coming up in about 4 minutes or so. Time is never our friend. But I wanted to just give you the opportunity to tee up one of the tools that's on your website. Rebel, if you'd be so kind to show the website.
So this is on drbonitathompson.com, and it's under collaborative tools. And this is kind of what we were talking about, David, regarding the positive reinforcement that we need to bring into our families, and we need to point out when things are going right. What I found was that we also need to do that in our workplaces, and that there is a way in which we can reward one another and still appear to be the leader and the person in charge. And it is an incredible way in bringing collaboration to the team. And that's called collaborative promotion as opposed to self promotion. And we can talk about, we can go into the details of collaborative promotion, but basically, collaborative promotion helps you get good information out to the team and to other departments about what your team is doing, but without the sting of self-promotion, because people don't tend to like people who self-promote, but they really like people who compliment one another. So this is a tool that helps you do that in a very constructive way.
So before we take the break, can you tell the story about the women at Google?
Absolutely. So collaborative promotion is used when we have a difficulty in getting the positive things that we're doing out to the world, because self-promotion has a sting to it. And so there are 4 elements to collaborative promotion. And the ladies, so in 2018, the employees of Google walked off the job because there weren't enough strong women in senior leadership positions at Google. And so Google set up a program that trained, or they selected 18 women who they felt could be promoted soon into a senior leadership position. And they brought in all types of consultants to help work with them on how they could better represent themselves so that they could be promoted into senior leadership. And I was fortunate enough to be on that team. And the skill that I chose was to teach them collaborative promotion. And it was so beautiful to see these incredibly brilliant women. I mean, they were exceptionally brilliant, who had not really been in a very supportive environment for ever. And so to see them supporting one another, and not looking at this as, I'm going to get promoted and you're not, but to look at it as, we're going to rise together and we're going to work as a team to get promoted together. That was very enriching for me, and really changed the whole attitude that all the women came to this project with.
Wow. Well, let's test drive this together after the break. So, if you've been receiving useful insights from our conversation with Dr. Bonita Thompson, I invite you to join my Regenerate community on Substack. where I'm able to go even deeper with my guests on the themes you've heard on this show. We'll be right back after this valuable offer.
You're listening to Regenerate with Captain Dave, your personal regenerator on K4HD Radio. We'll be right back. Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you ready to regenerate and live the life of your dreams? Start the transformation now. Call Captain Dave at 253-237-2558. Stop overthinking. Again, call 253-237-2558 or go to regenerativeworldgroup.com to book a free, no-obligation clarity call. Let's get back to Regenerate right here on K4HD Radio for more life-changing transformations. Here's your host, Captain Dave, your personal regenerator.
Welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. And I just clicked the wrong button, so I'm going to click that back. We wanted to resume this discussion around collaboration, and specifically around how can people with much more authentic collaborative promotion rather than self-promotion. And Dr. Bonita talked about a story with a number of women executives at Google, how she had the privilege of bringing this idea into Google, and it was really transformational for, I wouldn't just say the women themselves, I would say it probably cascaded throughout.
Absolutely.
I
think that's very true. You know, David, it's really interesting. A lot of leaders come to me and they say, well, I don't want to reward, this specific person because all the other people on my team are going to feel like I didn't do something for them. And so I don't want to get into where I have to do something for everybody. And they feel as though it's can be a punishment for other people rather than, just a reward for one person. And so we want to be able to reward people in a way that they see that they can change their behavior to adopt these new behaviors that the person being rewarded has adopted. So I see you have clicked to my site.
Yes. Now, I think I'm sharing on the wrong one again, so I'm going to fix that. He can be taught slowly. All right. So, Dr. Bonita Thompson. It's the collaborative tools one. Why is that one not showing as a clickable link? Let's see here. So do you mind talking about the 4
Sure.
steps?
There are 4 steps in a collaborative promotion. The first one is, what did the person do? Because if I'm rewarding you, David, and saying you're a wonderful person, you're just so great, we love having you on the team, other people on the team can't be David. And so what we want to do is reward a specific behavior that you did. So David's established this Regenerate podcast, and that he has, I tend to blend them all together. So basically, step 1 is, what specifically did they do? Step 2 is, what quality or trait did they bring to this that really made it stand out? So the first one, we've established what it is they did. The second one, why is the way that they went about approaching it so significant that it deserves a reward? The third step is looking at how what they did impacts an overarching goal for everyone. In other words, how does it benefit everybody? And that is really important for establishing you as the leader, because as a leader, you want to establish a goal in everything you do. And when you criticize somebody, when you promote somebody, you're always bringing it back to the goal level. And then the fourth thing that you need to do in the collaborative promotion is to state to invite everybody to reward this person with you. So that might be everybody stands and applauds. It might be everybody gives a woohoo. Um, whatever your team does to acknowledge each other. And that's really great because it gets everybody involved and everybody can acknowledge the person along with the leader. So it's those 4 steps. And so the tool will walk you through those 4 steps and it will give you a proposed wording. Now, obviously, the tool is using AI, and whenever we use AI, we want the human to come in and make sure that that makes sense, because the tool can't know everything about your circumstances. But it will give you a proposed wording, something to start with, something to edit, and it will walk through those 4 steps.
So can we just have some fun for a moment?
Let's do it.
So I observed Dr. Bonita last Friday was very empathetic about a colleague who was having difficult. Get to see how great my typing is under pressure. Okay, so I observed you, last Friday, because we get together as part of a mastermind group. We've been doing this now for 4 years with a number of terrific Marshall Goldsmith 100 coaches, kind of a life plan review, and very empathetic about a colleague who was having a difficult time in their family. Now, is there more that I would want to define here?
What did I specifically do that showed that I was empathetic?
Anita listened deeply, and then asked for permission to share the story. She thought be helpful.
And the benefit of being specific on that is that other people will listen and they'll say, okay, so I want to make sure that I listen when other people are expressing a difficult challenge. And I want to make sure that I I ask for permission to put forth a thought. Because you've just now said that's something that you really value.
So then I'm just saying here, and because you met this person where they were, her story made positive connection and impact on the other person. Something like that.
Okay. And then it's for an individual, and you can put the name.
I'll just use my name because, and they, them stands out. Okay, so there's a few questions to answer here. If
So
I press,
the strength would be probably empathy.
okay, so I can just do a one-worder.
You can do a one-worder. The relationship to you. So this is really, we realize that when you do it inside the organization, it needs different pronouns than when you do it outside the organization. So this is just, you can say inside the organization because it's within our community. And then the shared goal, what comes from this type of behavior?
So is it in the past tense or in the present? So improved trust or improved trust?
Either one. It will sort it out with the AI tool.
Okay, so improved trust. You say this, improved trust, engagement, and psychological safety. Psychological safety. How about
That's
that?
a long one. Perfect.
And then how did this move a shared goal forward? So I just maybe reprise what I said here. By meeting the colleague where they were, made a positive connection, impact, gave the other person hope to persevere through their challenge. Something like that. So if I pull this, from
And you
here,
just and put it down below.
yep, copy that.
Yep, that works.
Okay. All right. So are we pretty good to go?
We're good to go. Press the golden button.
Persevere.
It will correct any spelling.
I do love that about generative AI. Thank goodness for my bot. So this is such a clever use of generative AI. I really.
So this is the paragraph it came up with. I can't quite see it because this print is too small for me. Can you read it?
Yeah, absolutely. So your recognition draft was created by Dr. Bonita Thompson's intelligent agent. So this would be something that
that I would now recognize Bonita for, rather than put when you said individual, it should have been Bonita's name. So just substitute Bonita.
Yes. Okay. I want to recognize Bonita for their thoughtful and empathetic support demonstrated last Friday when they deeply listened to a colleague facing personal challenges. Love that. By meeting their colleague where they were and thoughtfully sharing a relevant story with permission, Bonita created a meaningful connection that offered hope and encouragement during a difficult time. Their genuine empathy and attentiveness not only uplifted the individual, so that's a nice insight that I didn't write. That came strictly from your training of the LLM.
But also
trust, engagement, and psychological safety across teams. And then finally, this moment of compassionate leadership, oh, love that, exemplifies the values that help cultivate a supportive and resilient workplace culture. Please join me in commending Bonita for their impactful and inspiring approach. Yay, Bonita.
Yay. So that is a way in which you can have the tool write promotions for other people. If you can get everybody on a team doing this for one another, you will be amazed at the collaboration that comes from this, the goodwill that gets built from this. And people start really focusing on doing things better and regenerating and self-improving when teams do this for one another. I've even seen that they have a time during their weekly staff meeting where people can call out other people for good work. And if you give them a tool like this, the way that they call them out is very instructive to everyone about the types of behaviors that we expect and want from others.
And I have a story that I'd like to share, but before I do, it looks like there's some very simple buttons that you could press and use the tone change features of how you've trained your LLM. So more formal, more personal, more energetic, etc.
Right. If you're doing it for Wall Street, it would be a little more formal. And if you're doing it for a group of friends, it probably would be a little more casual. And so you can tailor it.
And then
you
think
can also edit it and email it.
Yeah. I see that as well. And sometimes the user interface for these tools is not intuitive, but you've made this super idiot proof for people like me. So you can email it to yourself, you could download it as a PDF, as a text, or copy it into, say, a PowerPoint or a Teams presentation or something else. Very cool. All right.
Yes.
The story that I'd like to share about this timely and authentic, Rebel, you can take that down now if you don't mind. When I was turning around the $930 million smart meter program with an incredible team of engineers and software developers, I was hired because the systems integrator was a little late. I mean, it was a really complicated 23 different vendors. And I remember the first day that I arrived, you could see the shoulders just kind of sunk in, and people didn't have a lilt in their step. They were feeling pretty beaten, and they had just started the project. And I remember Kai Huey, my box buddy, the BC Hydro director, and I was the Capgemini director. we agreed that we needed to change the way that the team culture was interacting. It wasn't about the budget and the scope and the schedule. It was about how do you create an environment where people can come and do their best, most creative work, which I believe is the role of all good leaders, and then help people remove their own impediments or obstacles. And if they can't, if it's systemic, then then the top leaders definitely need to get involved. And so what we introduced was it was a weekly meeting at the beginning, and then it went to monthly. And it was exactly this timely and authentic feed forward that your tools, your collaborative promotion tool created with yours and my help. And people, they will crawl over broken glass, won't they, if they believe that the recognition is timely and authentic. Now, we offered a little coffee card and these little foam stick figures, 3D foam that you could connect up. And we knew that we were making a difference when not only did the shoulders start to relax and people were standing more upright, they had a lilt in their step, there was humor in the hallways, and stuff was getting done, and we were enjoying the journey. And people, and we always had one story of the 3 or 4 that we told together with somebody who's doing something that people would never have known, kind of that quiet, silent, often introverted person who just because of their presence, because they're paying attention, because they've got somebody else's back, not very visible, but oh my gosh, kind of like grease helping the gear, turn and not grind. So as a leader, have you experienced something profound about timely and authentic recognition?
Oh, I have found that it is transformative in any organization to have this positive feedback coming back to people. Collaboration isn't about being nice. A lot of people confuse this. In fact, niceness can get in the way of being collaborative. Collaboration is about achieving a goal together. And so it's a team goal. We know a lot about goals for individuals, but the research for team goals is more scarce. But what we do know is that teams need to feel like each person on the team has each other's back. And the way we develop that is through this positive reinforcement. Again, not that it's just there to be nice, because when we call out what the person specifically did, the quality that they brought to the table, and then why that connects with the overarching goal, when we connect all of those 3 things together, then we become collaborative because we are supporting the goal every time we recognize someone. And I think that's a really, really important. I've seen huge transformations in just a very short period of time by having people really focus in on getting 5 positive feedback sessions for every 1 criticism. It can be
Well,
transformative.
absolutely. So maybe just to finish my little story, we had 4 years of work basically that we had to get done in 2 years because of the funding ups and downs of the provincial government and just technology delays, et cetera. And we met all of those objectives, 35 systems, 139 interfaces for the engineering and software development team. What was it? 1.8 million smart meters swapped out. All of the networking gear had to be done. It was a remarkable program. And the thing that I'm most proud of is that we did enjoy the journey. It did not feel that after that first few weeks, after my arrival, it didn't feel like a death march.
I'm curious, David, when problems arose, and I'm sure they did,
Oh yeah,
did people feel like they could bring them up in the meeting?
yeah, yeah. That
And
was the
why do you
key to the
think
whole
that
thing.
is?
In fact, one of the early stories that Kai Huey and I talked or shared was somebody that brought bad news. And we said, we can't manage a secret. I was leveraging a lot of the Alan Mulally working together principles and practices to turn that program around. And we created that psychological safety. So the early stories were about the behaviors that we really wanted to see more of.
We get confused sometimes when we use the term psychological safety. Amy Edmondson, who came up with that term, was looking at teams who were incredibly productive, trying to find out, what were the patterns that they worked in. And the number one thing that she found, most impactful of any of the factors, was this term that she called psychological safety. And she found that the teams who argued the most had a greater sense of psychological safety than the ones who were nice to one another. And so sometimes we get fooled and we think, oh, well, in order to have psychological safety, everybody has to be nice to one another and we can't bring up anything that's difficult. But the exact opposite is true. We want to create an environment where everybody can bring up something that isn't going right. And so that's why I wanted to bring up the second tool, which
Please,
is the
let's
constructive
describe it. We probably
concerns.
won't have time to actually test drive it, but maybe we'll have you come back and we can test drive it together. But yeah, please describe the tool.
So the tool is called Constructive Concerns, and it is a way in which you can enter in something that's really nagging at you, something that isn't going right. Maybe it's a behavior of a fellow collaborator, or maybe it's, we don't have enough resources to make the deadline. Whatever the issue is, just let the computer have it. And then the computer is going to ask you, what things do you think we need to be doing in order to solve this problem? It's going to ask you a series of about 4 questions. And then it will give you a proposed way of wording it so that people on the team can hopefully hear what it is you have to say. And it was very fun because I was presenting this to a leader at T-Mobile, and he looked at me and he said, "You're going to change the economy of Indonesia with this tool, because there are certain cultures that they just don't bring up things that are of concern. And as a result, they aren't able to address them. Just like Alan Mulally said, you can't manage something you can't see. So this tool helps the person who's bringing up the issue and hopefully helps the team receive the issue in a way that they can actually address the problem.
And this one, you would type the complaint or concern, you would choose from 3 rewrites, receive clear action steps and follow-up suggestions, and then you can kind of copy and save it as we did before with the collaborative promotion one.
Right. And again, always use your human sense to make sure that it makes sense.
Yeah. So glad that you added that. My belief is if I don't edit, be the final arbiter of quality of whatever the generative AI intelligent agent, Navi, short for the navigator, she's my trained ChatGPT bot. If I don't take responsibility, then I should be replaced by the bot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So is there anything that you haven't yet said that you would just love to take about a minute or so to tell our audience? Anything that's in your heart, anything around collaboration that you haven't yet been able to say?
Well, one of the reasons why I did this research was because I noticed in the literature that we promote people into leadership positions because they stand out from the crowd. And they do that by being decisive and confident and assertive, and they dominate conversations. And our innate sense says, this is the leader. And once they get in the position, we determine that they are effective at their role based on their ability to bring out the best in others, to share resources with peers, to align with the strategic assignments from top senior leaders. These are very different skill sets, the ones that stand out and the ones that fit in. And so I was particularly interested in how leaders learn these skills that make them effective in their role after being rewarded for standing out and being dominant. And so that's where the focus of my research um, looked at. and where I learned what is the collaborative skill set. And I think the difference between my research and what has come before is we tend to have thought that collaboration was a trait. You either had it or you didn't. It was important for organizations to get rid of anybody who didn't have it. So we don't train for these skills. We don't train these skills at all. We don't select for them, but if you don't have the skills, we'll fire you, was basically the bottom line of the research. And so it's a huge problem that people who want to get into leadership roles experience. And there's a lot of different techniques. I'll be developing more tools and developing more videos on what those techniques are. So yeah, you can find them at drbonitathompson.com.
Oh, terrific. Well, we're going to have you back. If you had fun, I hope you will be interested in doing that.
And I loved all the stories that you shared about how you worked on a team that was just so great to work with. I love hearing those stories because that is really what we're all striving for. It makes the journey and the end goal really, really satisfying.
Well said. So, team, this is the end of episode 6 with Dr. Bonita Thompson. Next week, we're going to be navigating through the messy middle of transformations with Laura Thompson. She's a global Fortune 500 advisory coach and best-selling author, and she empowers professionals to lead with values and create purpose and meaning. And the theme for next week's show is humans and machines for good. So we're going to talk about some really important questions. What's the purpose of humanity in the age of AI? And can humans and machines coexist while preserving human values? So I promise I'll personally read your constructive comments if you have any that you'd like to add. See you next week. We're better together.
Thank you for listening to Regenerate with Captain Dave on K4HD Radio. We invite you to give yourself grace and embrace the messy middle. See you every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Until then, you got this.